All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have a special treat for you. I have Scott Spalding, and I owe this guy a lot because he sort of got me out of my hiatus. I had sort of just stopped doing the podcast for a while and, went for some stuff in my own business or whatever. And he sent me an email saying that he liked it and he listened to it and he hadn't heard one in a while. And yeah, I hadn't done one. And then he introduced me to Charles, who was the last one that did the nonprofit thing. So it really got me back into it. So first of all, I want to say thank you for Scott for giving me that little kick. Well, you didn't really kick me in the rear. You gave me inspiration to do it. But this isn't about me. It's about you. So Scott, tell us a little bit about you because I want to get to know you personally.
Okay. My name is Scott Spalding. I'm the owner of Blue Ribbon Home Inspections in Portland, Oregon. I'm a licensed home inspector in the state of Oregon, licensed home inspector in the state of Washington, and I'm a mentor for newly licensed inspectors. Pretty much wherever they give me an email or a call, I usually will reach out and get them started on the right foot, or at least give them some good advice.
Awesome. I do have a question. I should have asked Charles this too. So I don't have my geography right in front of me, but is Portland somewhat close to the Washington line, or
yeah.
I mean, you guys operate both? Because I know he does Washington as well.
Right. So Portland is about 8 miles from the
it's real
Washington
close.
Border. But
okay.
But our Oregon license does not transfer or cross it into Washington. You would think they'd give you some leeway, but no.
No.
So you definitely have to have a state license for both states.
Okay. Well, I know the answer to this question because of our pre-talk, but our audience doesn't. So we actually have something in common. But tell us how you got to be a home inspector. Not too many of us grew up. I didn't even know what a home inspector was. My father and your father actually did the same thing. Tell us what you grew up doing, or your parents, and what you got from there to be a home inspector.
Okay, so what we have in common is our fathers were funeral directors.
Yeah.
And anyway, so when I had no idea what a home inspector was. It wasn't even in my wheelhouse. During high school, I wanted to be a industrial designer, and computers weren't even in the picture at the time. Maybe the Commodore 64 type.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That type.
Remember the Timex Sinclair one that had the little tape thing?
Yeah. Anyway,
Sorry.
so from high school, I thought that I would just transfer that into college, and when I got to college, it was like, this is boring. And computers at the time just started popping up. So for the next 20 plus years, I rode that wave until 2015. Decided that I wanted to do something completely different, which this definitely is.
Yeah,
and
computers, yeah.
So I was lucky enough to find an older gentleman that was in the midst of retiring type, and for about 8 months, I rode around with him. I learned more probably from his field technical experiences, little tricks and stuff, than I did doing the national test.
Okay.
And then, from that point on, it's just been, introducing myself and showing what type of fantastic work I do.
Awesome. Let me back up on just a couple of things. So this mentor, he was in Portland as well?
Yes.
Okay.
He had been doing home inspections 15 plus years.
Okay.
And I just was lucky enough to call a local inspection kind of facility, and I get a return phone call from him, and from that on, it was just learn. That's
awesome. And something else, like we were talking in the pre-talk, that Charles that I Charles that I interviewed, not inspected, that you introduced me to the nonprofit home inspection. You guys are friends. I mean, what's cool to me is that all you guys are friends. I mean, there's a lot of markets where, they don't get along with each other, and it's cool when I see that
There,
you can be friends. And
true is that, but there are. I mean, I still run into that, Preston.
yeah,
If there's something that I don't know, or like Charles was saying, take a lot of pictures and then go
yeah,
home and Google it.
yeah,
I don't know. So I try to cater to a special niche in the Portland area, houseboats, condos, stuff like that. If I don't know, I will reach out to somebody that I can, find online in the area, whatever. And sometimes I get the cold shoulder. You're in my neighborhood. You're in my, so I'll call Seattle, and I'm so far out of their range of inspections. It's like, pack a lunch, come up here for the day. Let us show you what's going on.
that's
But
cool.
I have to reach out of the area of, saturation.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing, and that's what's good about being in some groups and stuff. And I've been in some different, in the organizations, because people are more willing to help you, especially with marketing outside of your. You're not going to get much marketing help usually in your own your own market. But that's really cool. I do have to back up on something else too, though. So your father was a funeral director. I guess, did he own a funeral home? Did he?
Yes.
Yeah. So was there any pressure on you or were there other siblings? Did you have siblings that,
No, not at all. Not
Oh, really?
to go into that profession. No, I think we were talking that by the time I got really old enough to even figure out, all the stuff, which is, it's definitely an odd profession, but no, there is nothing to.
Yeah, because I will say this to all the listeners out there: most people who are in that business, it's a family type business. I mean, you meet a funeral director, chances are their parents or somebody was, because it just not too many people are like, hey, when you take that, what color is my parachute? It usually doesn't come out funeral director.
Yeah, exactly.
Because my dad put a little pressure on me. He wanted me to do it, but I mean,
it's a completely different skill set.
yeah.
It's just like being like almost a field medic. If you are able to come up on the scene and stomach it, then
Yeah, I tell you, not to get too far down a rabbit hole, which my ADD will squirrel. But he had that contract with the medical examiner's office too. So we went to some I'm a teenage kid helping him out, gunshot, Friday, Saturday night, some bad stuff, man.
I think you probably could come up with some good stories, because there's stories that once you see it, it's like. Jason and Friday the 13th don't even cut it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a reason, I won't get too far, but there's a bad wreck on the road and they have stuff covering so the cameras can't. There's a reason.
Yeah.
So tell me about roughly how long you've been doing inspections and what changes have you seen, Scott?
I started shadowing late 2014. Okay. Got my license in 2016, and been just running since then. Okay. My motto is if you're not the lead dog, the view never changes.
Yeah, and it's not a great view.
No. So,
I've been the lead dog and then fell behind a little bit and quickly reminded me that I need to get back. The view's not good back there.
So, I mean, that's kind of, in the nutshell, that's my story is I'm always trying to not recreate the wheel, but maybe advance it or, better it in some way.
Awesome. I like it. Now, we talked a little bit on the pre-talk, but we're live now. So the question is, and I'll modify it a little bit, is does your state have licensing, and you're a member of any associations, which one, and how does it benefit you? but I'll modify it just a little bit that you kind of straddle two states there. So, and I think they do both have licensing. So if you could speak to like what's required of each one and then maybe do the association part, if that's not too
Sure.
much for one.
Sure.
That's a run-on question.
Good. My first license was in Oregon State, and Oregon requires you to take the national test and then also to take what they call points. So ride-alongs, recommendations, maybe classes of construction or something in that category where they'll give you points. After the 20 points, they hand you, your certificate, your number, and say, there you go. For the state of Washington is 20 classroom hours, even though that you may have already got the amount of credits, you still have to go to the class. After the 20 hours, then you have to take 40 hours of ride-along. Ride-along is not anything. You could actually just ride along and have a conversation and do several inspections, not live ones, but mock ones.
Right.
And as far as that goes, not only do you have to take the national test, then you also have to take the state of Washington's proprietary test, and it's 25 questions they throw in the 200. So it's at what is it now? 25 a test, pass or fail. You're doing a lot of studying.
So they're taking 25, and I guess you have to get 20 of the 25.
You have to. So the national test is 200 questions.
Right.
State of Washington is 225.
Oh, okay. Is there a lot of? Are there any of the same questions, or is it a lot different?
It's all pretty much specific to state of Washington.
Okay. It's very interesting.
So, you could pass the national test and fail the Washington side, but then you have to somehow go back and pass both of them.
Yeah. Curious about the national. I haven't taken, I was like a home inspector back during the Stone Ages. I didn't have a national, I have a state. What, did you do anything to prepare? Did you take any kind of cram course or any? I know we all know a lot of stuff, but, you have to kind of, for any kind of test, I think you got to prepare a little bit,
So, I did not pass the national test the first 2 times.
Okay.
The passing score is 500 to get as a passing score. So they take a pool of 2,000 questions and give you 200 of them.
Oh, so they're random out of that.
Yeah, and it's not just it could be questions from Canada, metrics. Could be stuff from the East Coast. We have nothing with ice dams or questions that you would see on Maine would have specific questions. So you have this huge pile of questions that and the tests. So I'll back up. So I was right on the point of the state of Oregon had its own proprietary test, and then in October of 15, they switched over to the national test. So if you took the proprietary test from Oregon, boom, you're a licensed inspector. But I weighted that a little extra and went for the national test, thinking, okay, but I didn't have any reading material, or at the time, all I had was, Google this, Google that, what about this? So I kind of had to go. And it was like you used the analogy, process of elimination. Yeah. That was me. It was going to cost me. But finally, by the second time, I had just missed, and not every question is the same. One question could be 2 points, or another question could be 13 points.
Oh, man.
It's huge.
That's crazy. That's a tough test.
There's 13 chapters, but not all the questions or the answers. I never saw the same, thing. You could get brain dumps, that they called it, to they say that you'll pass it, but you really have to know the information. They give you a book, or you buy a book that's it's called the Bible, or it's their study guide. It's 800 pages.
Wow.
Everything on the test is in that book.
Okay.
So I've read that book probably 4 times, because it's like you get the test results, and it's like, oh, I just missed it by 1 question, which was worth 4 points, but they really don't tell you what you missed.
Oh man.
So you've got to go back. You've got to go back and, study.
Well, and that's crazy too that you said there's a pool of so many questions, because a lot of times, if you take it the first, and I failed our state's pest control the first time. That is a hard test. But the second time, you really kind of had a good idea. It wasn't the exact same questions, but some of them. But it was just kind of knowing. The second time I came in there, but everybody told me there's like a 10% pass rate on it. But
so I called the first time. I thought, man, this is harder than what you're thinking that a home inspector. So I called back to the home inspection headquarters, and I talked to them. They said that the fail rate was 85%.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. And this is when I think Nick Gromyko was having that fight back and forth with, anyway, they don't, the reason they won't tell you what the answers are is because it's a proprietary test, and, they want to keep it all inside.
Okay.
But so long story short, after taking those in the process elimination, I passed it with a perfect score.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I walked out of the thing just sweating bullets, and the lady has this deer in the headlight look, like, I've been doing this test and I've not seen this, but you have a perfect score.
Wow.
Man, I was like
awesome.
floating. I floated all the way home, man. That was great.
Wow, you should start a study school or something.
Yeah.
Now. Well, you do mentoring, so that's cool. Well, if I decide to take it, I might get you. I was just kind of, I've been doing this a long time. No, I'm not saying I would walk in, but I just feel like if that's the thing, maybe I should do it, but golly, 85.
But
it doesn't sound like something you do for fun.
No, it's not. But, this will be the 3rd time after being licensed having to take it. So the state of Oregon, you have to take it first off to get your license. If you don't take it within a certain amount of time in the state of Washington, you have to retake it.
Oh, boy.
And like I was saying, I'm right now in Arizona for a couple days getting caught up on the Arizona license.
Right.
If I don't take it within a certain time there, I have to then retake it again.
Oh, boy.
It's just, it's like they want to keep you and, inside the box to make sure that even though you took it the first of the year, you've got to do your stuff before, the next 24 months go by.
Right. Let me ask you, what's your CE requirements for those? Is it a certain number of hours per year?
Yeah. It's pretty heavy. And how I can't tell you exactly what they are, but I know that I try to look for the ones that multiple states that I'm licensed in will accept that amount of CEs. Some of them, like Arizona, there's one option online without having to go to a conference of some type. But Washington and Oregon, they're pretty similar as far as that goes. And you can take all the InterNACHI online stuff and build up there, or you can just go to a weekend shop and get it all taken care of. Cool.
Well, let's move on a little bit. Talking about books, I'm a big fan of Stephen Covey, the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. I used to listen to that thing over and over and over. One of his big things is sharpening the saw. And how do you keep the saw sharp? How do you keep your...
Like I said, so I am a mentor for newly licensed inspectors, and I pretty much keep it in the Washington, Oregon type thing. But I do have, I've just recently had somebody from California reach out to get a grip on what's going on. that's pretty much it. I mean, I want to at least give the new inspectors the ability to know what it's really like. I mean, they've taken the test, they've got skin in the game, they're anxious and willing to do it. But if you've never been in a crawl space, if you've never been in an attic, sometimes it's overwhelming. I mean, I don't know about you, but I was doing a large house and got lost in the crawl space. And I mean, that sounds funny. You're like, oh man, how could you do that? I now, those flashing lights that you put on a bicycle at night.
Mm-hmm.
I put it now where the hole is to get to the crawl space, so that wherever I'm at, I know where, those are the type of things that it's like, oh yeah, I ran into that problem, and then pass it on.
Yeah, I've had a couple that like have multiple additions in like separate crawl spaces. And you're going into there, but you're a lot nicer to your guys. The guy who trained me had like rubber snakes he would drop down for me to crawl over and stuff. So
I've always wanted to. So I'll take some of the new, if they come to Portland. I'll take them to like maybe a rental house that I may have open, and we'll do a inspection of it as a mock, but something that, it's like, it's not going to take you 5 hours to do this. Go through it. And I wanted to go to Home Depot and buy those skeletons and dig a hole inside of it, and maybe leave a femur or something hanging out, and just see how fat,
Well, now would be the time, because
I know
Halloween, you'd probably get one of those plastic skeletons, but if you partially buried it,
I sent that to Charles last year. I said, here, do this for extra credit.
Yeah. The only thing is, I just hope it doesn't get out of hand or something. You got to tell somebody right away, because like if somebody really thought that, well, they have the news station out there and everything. I tell this story all the time, and again, I get down a rabbit hole with my ADD. But a long time ago, it's probably been 15 years ago, I was inspecting this house. I mean, everybody was there. And, the uncle that did heating and air, the buyer, the seller, both families. Anyway, I'm crawling around. It's a big old crawl space. I get back around. And it's kind of nasty anyway. And I see hair. And I'm thinking, it's a body. I think it's a body. And I go up to it, and, yeah, it was a body, all right. It was one of those inflatable. It was deflated, obviously. And I was young then, so I pulled it out. Today, I would leave that in there. I would not. But I pulled it out. Everybody's standing there. Like, somebody's going to miss her. I'm looking at the seller. You got anything you'll say? But, so I find liquor bottles and stuff. That was the first one I ever found. So, Scott, let's say that I'm a buyer or a real estate agent in your market. There are other home inspectors in your market. Why should I hire you? Is there something you do different that others don't?
I think I do. So, like I said, I'm kind of a boutique niche for certain inspections. I consider carrying my toy bag full of stuff. I'm a one-stop shop, even though I'm a single inspector. I work with multiple companies, sewer scoping, radon, radon mitigation, sewer line repairs, so that even though that I call it out, it's still able to be bidded out to, other companies. I use Crawlbots.
Yeah, I saw that on your website. Yeah.
So I just I've been using older versions of that because of doing like flip houses, and they cover up the hatch to climb down. So the only way you can look in the crawl space is, drop a remote car with a camera or something. But yeah, that's the new Crawlbot T6.
Cool.
Love it.
I've been toying with the idea of doing it. I don't know.
It's I do air sample testing for mold, the radon. What else? I use infrared E8 cameras. I I mean, I pretty much have, full, like I say, my analogy was, if you're not the lead dog, never changes. But, mold is the next radon. Everybody's, I want
Yeah,
to be there.
we started testing for mold, and honestly, that's like always the big. If there's ever like a big, lawsuit or whatever, I swear it's like 80% of the time it's mold. And I used to think I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want anything to do with it. And then I thought testing for it would make me more liable, but now I think it reduces your liability because you offer it, and if they turn it down, well, then that's on them. You know what I mean? Where
Exactly.
but before, if you don't do it, but they feel like if they have mold, you should have found it. But now, if you offer it and they turn it down, well, that's extra testing that you chose not to do. That sort of thing. So I think it actually reduces your liability, or at least that's what I kind of found
Well,
out.
I was, so today I did a friend of mine down here, let me kind of hang out as seeing how they do inspections here in Arizona. Completely, I mean, it's like, wow, that's really different than the Pacific Northwest. But as far as pictures go, digital pictures, I take a lot of them.
Oh, I do too.
And I just started using the 360 camera instead of taking, multiple shots all over. They may not go in the report, but when they come back and they say, well, why didn't you find this? Well, you had a rug and a couch over that location.
And you've got the thing, yeah.
Yeah.
We got saved on our guys they do GoPro or GoPro knockoffs and film because I think of it, and the 360 does the same thing, almost like a cop camera, where what we do is so liable that, and then if something, it's kind of becomes a he said, she said thing. And so now you've got, well, we had one where they got termites later on in the baseboard, and they were trying to say, that we missed it, and we were able to pull that footage because, it gets like a 180 in any direction he looks, and it was high definition. We could zoom in, and it looked fine. 6 months later, there's, termite tube, but there was no way, we were clear because of that. So, and I can't tell you, garage doors are a trap. I mean, half the time they're broke, not half the time, but when you have a garage door complaint, half the time they're already broke and they're just waiting on you. It's a trap, man. It's a trap. So I like having, as you're doing the inspection or something, I didn't break it. It was like this.
Right. I mean, that's almost the only way that you can prove that that it wasn't, it was there before. Or I always wear like booties, not the ones that the realtors have, but the regular lab boots that you slip over. And before I even walk into the house, right at the front door, I take a picture of the shoes on.
Because they try to say,
yeah, exactly. You brought dirt in, or you scraped the floor, or these black marks. Like, oh, here you go.
Yeah, I'll tell you something else too. I tell everybody and all the listeners, if you do nothing else, tape I'm assuming at the end of your inspection, you kind of go through your findings. Usually on the computer, probably. We go through the pictures, and you can either do Snagit or Screencast-O-Matic, and we film that, and it picks up the conversation, because I can't tell you how many times, I mean, when there is, a complaint or something, it's like, well, this is them, you told me it wasn't that big a deal, or here's the tape, you know what I mean? Because, well, what happens is, a lot of times, Scott, they don't read the report, and then they buy the house, and then they have the problem that you told them about in the report, but they didn't read it. So now they're trying to get you on any kind of technicality. It's like, wait, Scott, you told me it wasn't that big a deal, or you acted like it was. What? That was your decision, not mine. I can't. It says right here in the report. But anyway, sorry, got on my ADD again.
But you're right. They don't read the reports. So I've just started lately is I use my service rig as it's always in one of the pictures, or somewhere in the report is kind of like an Easter egg. So you'll go through the family home if it's full, and they'll have the Batman and the Robin and all the little figures.
Right.
I'll take a little picture of that and put it somewhere in the summary of, hey, the superheroes are watching this great inspection. And if you never hear any recall or about that, you know that they didn't read it. But if the realtor texts you like, oh, nice, then you know it was read.
Right, right. Well, and I guess when there is a complaint, I would say, and I probably, in most inspectors I talk to, like when they do have a callback, probably 75% of the time, the thing they're complaining about was in the report, and it becomes obvious they didn't really read it. But what they're trying to do now is get you on some sort of technicality,
Mm-hmm.
So, and I preach to my guys all the time, you just cannot give them a technicality to get you on. I mean, you and I both know they didn't read it, but,
Right.
But anyway, well, Scott, I'm going to combine these two questions because they're kind of alike. And I know a lot of us don't have much spare time because we work and write reports all the time. Mm-hmm. And you mentor on top of that. So, but if you had spare time, what would you do? And tell us something that most people don't know about you other than that your dad was
filming. Well, I do like to travel in my spare time. Any place that's really sunny, that's kind of my go-to.
Arizona.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you live in Portland, it's 2 hours to the beach, it's 2 hours to skiing, and it's 2 hours to Phoenix. Just different modes of transportation.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you were that close to there. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm a mountain biker.
Okay.
Just to, blow steam off. I just had my 20th wedding anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
So, and I think that's pretty much the small things that not very many people know.
Awesome. And I just thought of something I need to tell all the listeners. The name of your company is Blue Ribbon Home
Inspection.
Because I don't think we ever said it. And a lot of times people, when they're listening, they want to Google or something, on their phone to see.
Sure. You'll find the website under brhi.biz.
Okay.
I figured if I cut it down, you wouldn't get carpal tunnel trying to write it out.
There you go. Well, and it can fit on if you're doing a tweet or something, because you can only have certain characters. Yeah. Well, and don't let me forget at the end, I want to give out your,
Oh, absolutely.
And all that stuff so that people can give you some love. Well, we kind of alluded to this, and this is kind of the last negative question. Then we'll do some more happy things. Well, actually, there's 2 more negative questions, but then we'll do some happy stuff. But, if you do this long enough, you're going to have an unhappy camper. We kind of talked about it. People don't read the report. Right. But so what do you do? And I know you probably don't have near as many unhappy campers as I do, just because I have. I mean, and it's the minority. Believe me. I mean, it's a small percentage, but boy, that small percentage makes a lot of noise. What do you do when you have an unhappy camper? You have a process. What's it like?
I do. I haven't had that many. I must not be doing a bad job if I don't have that many.
It's that perfect score you got on that.
Exactly. I as soon as possible, I reach out to that person if I've not already got them on the phone. Pretty much they want to vent.
Yeah, they do.
And even if it's just a venting, I make a point to go back out there just to, it may not be that day, but it will be arranged to get out there. I want to see what they're talking about, because they could be telling me one thing, looking at it one way, and when you actually look at it, you're like, no, that's not even in the picture here. Or this is a visual inspection. It's not, an HGTV series where I started, go to dinner, and pick it up at the end for dessert type thing.
And we remodeled the kitchen for a leaky faucet.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's pretty much just reaching out, being transparent, talking to them, finding out what their gripe is. If it's a matter of having another professional go out there and look at it as, HVAC or sewer, whatever, that professional that's their profession, then that's pretty much how I handle it. I really don't want to write a check for anything.
It's not fun. It's not fun.
No, but truly, I mean, if I truly miss something, then I'll own up to it. Man,
well, honestly, I'm not gonna say I like it, but I don't mind it so bad when I look at it. I'm like, oh yeah, we missed that. We should have found it. But the ones that drive me crazy are the ones where you did everything right, but this person just is crazy, and and I know there's a lot of people listening to this. Well, I wouldn't, but you sometimes wind up writing a check just because they're crazy and they're going to take it further. And I don't know. That's the ones that bother me, where you really,
just cut your losses, call it good, wish them
you only have
all the best.
So much of that, that's the one. But if we truly miss something, I'll write a check. I'll feel bad for a day, but then I won't. I'm like, well, just learn from it. Move on. Yeah. I don't. It doesn't.
No, but I mean, I truly want to hear what they have to say. They're calling me because they're agitated, they're pissed off, or something. And if it's something that I did, something that the guys that may have done other services that day, I mean, call me.
But I will tell everybody that's listening to this, if you're new to, you're not going to have any kind of business without having some sort of complaints or callbacks. You think it's going to be perfect.
No.
There's no restaurant on earth that doesn't have to give away a few free meals. That's
but Burger King will do it your way.
There you go. There's a slogan in there somewhere. You could make a home inspection.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, tell me about a time when you failed. Take us there, and what'd you learn from it?
Well, I guess the part of taking the national test, taking it and failing the first 2 times wasn't really a failure. It was more like a speed bump.
Right.
That it just pretty much encouraged me to put that much more effort into it. Once you finally pass it, it's like, man, you do have a lot more knowledge taking it multiple times than just the one.
I was just thinking, after you get a perfect score on that and it's still fresh on your mind, all that studying, just go to every state now and get. Before it leaves, before it osmosis or whatever. But it's still fresh on my brain.
The problem with that is I probably would never get that same sequence of questions.
Yeah, that's true. That's wild, that there's 2,000 different. I'm used to sometimes there'll be 2 versions of a test. I think that's what our state does. There's literally just 2 versions of the test. So it's like A and B. That's it.
If that was it, then the second time, man, I would have just aced it.
You're going to get it. And the other thing, I knew somebody that was pretty smart. Now, I don't know if they do this anymore, but he was kind of writing a prep course. And you know what he did? He would hang out outside where they took the test. And then as soon as people walked out, how there's always a couple on your mind. It's like, man, what'd you get for that? And he would ask him what that question was. And I guess there's no law against that, but you know what I mean? Right after you take a test, I can remember, every test I've ever taken, you get out in the hallway and somebody else out there and it's like, man, what you get that question that and there's always 2 or 3 like that. And you start writing them all down, and before long you have a pretty good prep course. But I don't know if that's, some people might say that's, when I was in college, my fraternity had a test file.
I remember those.
Yeah, man. And part of it, I know some people will be like, well, you shouldn't do that. But I'm like, well, the professor shouldn't be so lazy that he gives the exact same test, you know?
Right,
That's
exactly.
my answer to that, you know? But yeah, so all the brothers would put their tests in there, and, you know, you would go to the test file when you got that, you know, and sometimes there were one or two that would use the same ones, but usually not. But by studying the old test, it would at least help you prepare.
Well, just hopefully you changed the name on the test to yours.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Have you been talking to one of my fraternity?
Yeah.
But that is, well, my daughter just joined sorority. But that the other thing is, you know, talk to, you know, find out people who've had your major and stuff and ask them. And before you sign up for classes too, you always talk, well, what's this professor? Does he test from the notes? Does he test from the book? You know, because they're all a little bit different, and you try to, you know, feel them out. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's being smart, I think. Well, on the other end of the spectrum, Scott, tell us about a come a long way moment. Have you ever sat back and said, man, you know, I've come a long way, or things are working along? Have you had that moment?
I sure have. We're talking about it now.
Well, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's probably, you know, listening to you over the years. I mean, like I was talking to you before, is yeah, I never expected to be on your podcast.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I just appreciate you emailing me, and it kind of got me inspired, because I just sort of got burned out, and I'd had a little turnover, you know, just going through some stuff.
You know, being from listening to you from the outside, there is a wealth of knowledge that your interviews produce for inspectors. You know, just some of the ones that I, you know, will think about is you've got the gentleman over, I think it's Salt Lake City, Kitten Caboodle, or Tony
Troy Thompson.
Troy Thompson. Yes.
Troy Thompson.
His interview was fantastic.
Yeah, he's smart guy.
He those just weren't gold nuggets, man. Those were bullions that he was dropping. That's awesome.
I have to tell Troy. He'll probably hear it.
The young lady, the inspector recently, Rose.
Rose Buckley. Buckley, yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, she does like some little individual one-on-one things on her Facebook thing. I mean, those are like nuggets that if you just pick them up, and then for you, some of the advertising stuff that you'll put out there. I mean, you'll be, I think you sit in your truck sometimes, do a facey, you know, type thing, and say, oh, you know what, while you're here, take a snapshot of the postcards or the business cards, send it out to the realtors, put the address on it. They know who you are. Tell them you know, that type of thing. I mean, just listening to your podcast, visual or just audio, you just give out so much information. So, you know, there's definitely a positive thing there.
Well, thanks, Scott. I kind of thought, like, if you go to these conferences and, you know, the speakers are good. I like the speakers and all that. But it always seemed like those conversations you had at the bar or the restaurant. And if you ever go to a conference, everybody listening, you know, take somebody to dinner or buy them a beer, and just those conversations always thought were great. And I was like, I wish there was some way to package those conversations. So that was kind of my idea with the podcast, was like, so if you're not drinking a beer now, go ahead and grab yourself one. I'll, you know, pretend like we're having a beer. Yeah, that's what I like. And I listen to podcasts all the time. I love podcasts. And there just never was a real home inspection one. I know there's a couple. InterNACHI puts out a couple, and they're good. But they're kind of what do you call it? Like more like skill type thing, and those are good too, you know. But I like the human side of it, you know. I like to hear people's story, you know. I mean, like I said, none of us grew up wanting to be a home inspector. It's pretty interesting to hear people's story.
But you know, you're right. I mean, to be a home inspector, you have to have a specific skill set. It just, you know, you have it or you don't. There are some inspectors that are so awesome they could go through a house and just give you bullet points all the way through. And then there's some, I mean, I still have problems writing reports. It's
Oh,
like, oh my gosh, I wish there was like a podcast of, there's a huge variety of software out there, and it's pretty much initiation by fire. They don't have like, hey, you're going to do a narrative type of inspection or you're going to do a system type. It's like they don't even give you the chance. It's like whoever you were teamed up with or shadowed, you pretty much copy how they did it or use their format. Yeah, I mean, there's so much out there that you're given this huge information to all of us inspectors, but there's not like, oh, this week we're going to do how to write a report or whatever. You're just hearing the whole stories, which is, it opens up a whole, vocabulary of things that in one jurisdiction we may do as an inspection company, and in another, it's like we don't even think of that.
right. Well, cool. Well, now I got a fun question for you. What is the weirdest, wildest, or craziest thing? And remember, it's a PG show. I always say that because there's a reason I have to say that, because I had one doozy that I had to go back and I was afraid iTunes might. What's the craziest, weirdest, or wildest thing you've ever found?
Well, I can't tell you what that is because it is G-rated. But I'll go to the next one.
All right, the second wildest.
Yeah, the second one. I guess it's not. It's more of like in the crawl spaces that I'll go through. It's more of like petrified animals, or nothing that I can. My idea with the skeletons and stuff like that. I'd love to say, oh my gosh, but the other ones would be. Items that we're not going to talk about.
Some of my guys text me those all the time. I'll just say toys, not for kids. Adult toys.
Yeah. Well.
Don't you put those things away? Why do you leave my? Did you not know the inspector was coming over?
Yeah. That's pretty much the other number one. It's like, oh, don't touch that.
Well, and there used to be this thing. It's changed now, but our narrative in North Carolina used to always be, is it performing the function for which intended? You can obviously see a lot of room for jokes there, and
I think that's an IKEA commercial.
Somebody will find the Shades of Grey room, or they'll be texting me and say, I don't know if it's performing the function. Anyway, let's.
I mean, I've definitely found odd things. Sex rooms, grow rooms before pot was legal in Oregon.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that. And now it's like, okay, well, move on.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny stuff that everything's out and open now. I guess everybody's a lot more liberal about stuff. It's like even pot smoking. I mean, when I was a kid, that was like. Now it's legal. I mean, kids don't have to hide it anymore. So, anyway, well, Scott, do you have a favorite book you can recommend to our listeners? And what is it about the book that appeals to you?
I really don't have. Like I said, I listen to more podcasts, maybe technical stuff. I do a lot of. I try to listen to real estate podcasts.
Oh, really? Who do you listen to?
Every once in a while, they'll have their interpretation of what a home inspector does. Why do they need them? And if I have the chance, I'll make my notes real quick and then follow up with that podcaster and, change their perspective of, having a home inspection is not a bad thing. It's not a deal killer. It's protecting, somebody. Perfect example. If I get a call from an investor out of state, it's not a bad thing. They want you to just go through the whole house and then, do a FaceTime with them at the end, just as if they were there. That's, one of the, things more that I listen to is more of real estate than I do anything besides technical.
Cool. Do you have any favorites? I have like that Pat Hybrid, I like his a lot. And there's one called. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. So I listen to Bill Manacero on Old Dogs REI Network.
Let me write this down. What's his name again?
Bill Manacero.
What? Tell me the title, because I'll never be able to spell.
Oh, it's called Old Dogs DAWG REI Network.
Okay.
I think that's probably the biggest one that I can think of that I listen to on a daily type thing. But they're they're always talking about he buys a lot of stuff in like Georgia, Alabama, and then some of those, I don't think one of those states is not licensed. And,
Georgia is not Georgia.
And you when it says it, you're like, oh, they needed to check that. That's or new investors, when you're telling them about the sewer line's the first thing goes in. Big trucks come and run it over. So after you've lived or are in there for a month, next thing you know is you've got stuff backing up because it's off center or broken.
Yeah. Well, cool. Check out Pat Hybrid, Real Estate Rockstar. And there's another one that's a good investor one called Bigger Pockets. There's two.
I listen to Brandon all the time.
Yeah, that's a good one. The guy used to be a copper or something. One of them used to be a copper
Green. Dave Green.
Yeah. Those are good. Those are really good. Especially we have a couple of rental properties, and I want to buy more. But those are really good. That's
I'm surprised that Brandon or you haven't reached out. I mean, he's now figured out that Hawaii's the place to be. Is where he podcasts from.
Yeah, Maui. One of them lives in Maui.
And to be on the show,
tough life he's got there.
But have you read some of his books? He and his wife Heather.
I have the book on Audible, the Burr Method or whatever, but I haven't. It's in my library, but I haven't read it. I listened.
So listen. Scott Trench is another one in Bigger Pockets. Mindy does. Mindy kind of caters to, I believe, mobile homes. That's a whole nother inspection.
Yeah, genre. Yeah.
But reach that. Those are definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good. For all listeners out there, Bigger Pockets. And make sure it's the real estate one, because there is a Bigger Pockets one that's also like a stocks and stuff, but it's a real estate one. They're really good. And they interview all these other different investors, and there's all kinds of strategies too. It's really interesting. And if you're interested in getting into real estate investing, I highly recommend it. I didn't get paid to say that.
Not only that is you can get on Bigger Pockets website and they
have like these calculators and stuff like that.
And not only that, as an inspector, you can put your stuff up there. There's
I didn't even know that. Okay. I went on there once because I was telling my wife, because we have a couple of rental houses, and you can plug the numbers in. It'll tell you like your rate of return and like a lot of other things you don't think about. Your cap rate and all that stuff. Oh, cool. Well, that was worth the price of admission right there. I appreciate it. Well, thank you. Well, Scott, let's see. One thing, you mentioned it earlier, and I think this is going to be more in the future, where you do inspections for investors and you do a FaceTime with them. I thought that's going to be kind of going with this question. How do you think inspections will change in the future? And I kind of see that like doing FaceTime stuff, but I know we don't have a crystal ball, but next 5-10 years, how do you see inspections?
Well, I don't think, I think it's going to start becoming automated, not meaning that we're going to be farmed out, to another country type thing, like appraisers.
I want to do a bad accent. Lord. I'll probably get some hate mail. Somebody will shame me, but I won't do that.
Oh man.
Like the gal, I think that the Simpsons. But anyway, go ahead.
Yes. It's you don't have if you're the buyer, you don't always have to be at the inspection. You could be a different time zone away, but as long as now we have FaceTime, Skype, whatever the communication is out there, that is almost like being there.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of how I do a lot of investing, or investors that will call up. My problem is that if they're calling me from Guam, you're not having a FaceTime with them at that time. It will be
Yeah.
at another
Later. Yeah.
time. But at least you have the communication face to face. It's not just a phone call. Now we're able, like we're doing right now. This is that's how I see. And we're not going to have the drones going through the rooms and everything. It's still going to have to be a human to touchy, feel, smell,
There's gonna
whatever.
be some judgment stuff. I don't think they got AI that'll replace us just yet, because there's a judgment thing,
Yeah,
and
I don't think we're there.
yeah, thank
But
goodness.
that's how that's how I see it. And I would definitely like to look more into your GoPro. I think that's a great idea, but I think there's also like some privacy issues. If you walk through the house and you're like looking at the person's certificate from law school or whatever, it's like I don't think they'll want to see
Yeah.
put that out.
Well, we don't do anything with it except just keep it.
Sure.
And then,
But doesn't
and then
that's like terabytes of data with all your inspectors? I mean,
yeah, well, we put it on the lowest setting, and but now, man, you can get 5 terabyte drive for like $99. So storage is cheap now. It's just, but I think your 360 would do it too. I just want to document what it was like when we were there, just like a cop camera. Because if they try to blame something on us down the road, I just don't want,
Sure.
And it has saved us once. And I know at first my guys were like, we really have to, but then when they saw that it saved them, they all bought into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. We talked about this one. Speaking of being thrown under the bus, have you ever been thrown under the bus by a contractor? If not, you will. And the conversation will be like this. You'll get a call from the buyer, and it'll be, my contractor says you should have found X. Have you had one of those conversations? And there's no way to really, I always ask, what do you think we can do about it? But the only thing we can do is try to limit it or contain it. I don't think you'll ever stop it.
No, I agree with that. Recently, this was really petty, but I call out how many layers are on a roof. State of Oregon, you only have 3. After the 3rd one, you got to shave it down and start again.
Wow, it's 2 here.
Yeah, but it only had, I call out as one layer. The other thing is that if you don't know the age of the roof, on the backside, if you're doing an attic walk, they usually put the date of the OSB board or the plywood on it, so you can see pretty much, get a ballpark of the age. So I call it out, and roofer comes in and pretty much says, your inspector can't count. There's, multiple layers up there. We're going to have to strip it down. Here's the price. And at that point, it's like, have another roofer go up there. Get it. And they're like, man, everything in the report's exactly the way it is. I don't know where this other, roofer came up with.
And then, we've had some of those, and, and it's like, and then the buyer or whatever will ask us, well, why should I believe you and not him? It's like, because I'm not trying to make money off of selling you a new roof.
Yeah. I'm here as a solution for you to tell you, I'm only picking out what I see. I can't just make up some, item here. But
he has incentive for you to buy a new roof.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, another little negative question here, and then I think we're almost done with that. Forums. I don't know if you go on any of them. They actually have been pretty good lately, but every once in a while, but I guess as a whole, they're getting better, I think. But I hate when I see like a young inspector. I haven't seen it in a while, but every once in a while, a young inspector will ask a question. And man, some guys, I think now if that happens and I see it, usually I just don't even want to get involved. But, sometimes guys will jump on them, and just, the unprofessionalism sometimes on forums. It's getting better, I think. But have you seen any of that? What's your thoughts on that?
You know, I do see it. It's not just one forum, it's multiple ones. But I mean, it's kind of depressing in a way to have, you know, somebody out there reaching out to ask the question, what do you think? I'm new at this. And granted, with the amount of eyes that are on that forum, you would think that, oh, you know, try this, or this is why, as a helping situation. But, you know, I put my energy in other places. It's just like, you know, it goes on. You really can't do anything about it. But yeah, it's out there.
Yeah, I don't know. And I know as inspectors, we're trained, or, you know, we're always looking for problems. And I say in one sense, that's good. That helps us do our job. But in life, you got to also look for positive stuff. You know, you can't just be looking for the problem. I mean, if I approach my marriage like that, I would be divorced. I mean, like, yeah, let me tell you about all the problems, you know, but, you know.
Preston, do you have this, when I go over, like if my wife and I go out to somebody's house, it's like, oh, don't be doing your job.
I'm looking up at that crack going, I'm looking at the front porch. I can see the drill marks and the patches. They've been treated for termites.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah. But if you open your mouth, and you know you want to, I mean, like I do too. Like, you know, sometimes my wife would be like, how old do you think this house is? And I was like, well, wait till I go to the bathroom. And you know, like you said with the OSB, you look on the back of the lid. But
yeah,
I like, you better keep your mouth shut, because you'll never be invited to another cocktail party if you start.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway. We actually answered that one. We're on the back. We're almost done here. Let's see. Scott, do you have a training, internet, or marketing resource, you know, like Evernote or something, or Mileage Tracker, something that you found that you think could be useful to the listeners?
Sure. So I actually have Eric Gromyko doing my media work.
I saw an ad for that. How's that going?
You know, I previously I've been real leery of, you know, everybody's dialing for dollars from Google to wherever.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know what? I'm pleased. He does like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I mean, he has these packages, and you know, when you get a realtor or people that are actually part of the Facebook thing, going, man, I like what you put out this month. Oh, what was it? You know,
they start asking you questions.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That was a good one.
And then I use Blip for the ratings.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe like most, if you're ISN, it's a backdoor. They automatically push it, the follow-up letter.
Yeah.
That there is like key. You know, now millennials are just searching to see how you did, where you know, is it Yelp? Is it Zillow? Is it Google? Is it Nextdoor? Yeah, it's definitely well worth it. That's kind of it in a nutshell. I don't use like ISN or anything like that. I've tried.
I saw you on your website. You can get the report off your. I used to do that.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I use Inspector Pro and Dominic has been promising for years that there's a back office. It's coming out soon type thing. And that's kind of the missing part that I'm missing there. So I originally created an app like you see. You can register online, but it was just kind of a hyperlink into the back door of the website, because you know, all millennials are playing with their, you know, phones and keeping. But that would as far as Blip goes. And then I use Calendly for online scheduling.
Okay. Yeah, you know, way back before ISN, there was ISS before ISN, and even before that, I had this thing called a file transfer protocol, FTP or something.
Yeah.
So I put it. I could load up the report in a. I used 3D back then, and I would convert it to a PDF, and I would load it up. And I guess it's okay to say it now because it's been a long time. the code was always the 6-digit date and the person's last name. So today would be what, 09/30/19 Johnson. So
Right.
it was cool because if they ever wanted to report or something, I'm like, all right, what's your last name? And what day did we do it? And I would tell them the code. But it was cool because they could just go to the website and download the report straight from there. And I think there was it gave me a lot of Google juice because everybody went to my site to get the report. Now with ISN, it's all emailed out and stuff. But I wonder, because your Google juice, by number of visits to your website, that almost I almost wonder if I should go back to that sometime. I don't know. But anyway, well, moving on. I did have.
But then when the millennium came around, you had to back it off 20 years because 2000 could have been 1900 or.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't know over time, it's using up space because each time I load up the report. But I mean, I must have had a lot because it really didn't use much.
But InterNACHI has this platform called Fetch Report, which is fantastic. I mean, it's if you've not used it, it's pretty basic. You upload your reports to it. It automatically sends out a password and access, so the whoever you hook into there can download it from there. So it's once you push it, it sends out the emails. It's a great free option out there.
Does it show too, when they downloaded it? Because sometimes that comes into play later on.
Right.
You get these people say, "I never got my report." They're like, "Well, yes, you did." I've got the record of it right here.
It doesn't go into that detail, but it at least pushes it out there so that you're not getting a call 6 months from now going, "Can you send me my report?"
I know, I get those.
Go back up there and grab it because it just sits up there.
Okay, cool. I would want to back up. Speaking of InterNACHI, Eric Gromyko's thing. How often? So it does, and I know there's different packages, but because I am curious. Okay, so it does Facebook, Twitter, and does Instagram? Does it do Instagram too? And I know there's different packages, but how many posts? Is it per week or month or how? What kind of post is it? Is it informative stuff? What
Yeah, it is. It's so he puts out it's almost like a newsletter. It's it's almost like an advertisement. Well, it is an advertisement. I believe it's twice a month, so bi-weekly type thing. He puts it up there, pushes it out, and it's almost like InterNACHI's monthly meeting from Ben.
So it's good.
Hey, it's hey, your gutters this month should need a little TLC, and goes through there. But it's in the form of catching your attention. It's nothing. I mean, it's not even dull. It's good reading. I mean, I kind of enjoyed it. I didn't think of it at first, but there are different packages. I mean, you could have on a weekly basis, he could be sending stuff out.
Yeah. Well, what's good is if you send stuff out like that, and then the realtors can use it and push it out to their database because they're always looking to, stuff like cleaning your gutter, timely stuff for the time of year and stuff. And then you become valuable to them because you're providing them with material that they can push out to their database. I have to look into that. I saw, I guess it came up as an advertisement or something. And I looked at it and I thought,
I did that.
You can take off your plate, if they do a good job, that's good, man.
The other thing is I found a person that does specifically inspector videos, little snitches that you can put a hyperlink in your emails, and they're specifically for you. It's kind of like Nathan does the ones for his product. These ones here are specifically for your company, not an itemized product. It's, hey, here's the big umbrella that we do. And
how much do they charge, dude? I mean, and I know.
Oh, no. It was 3 videos for less than $200.
That's not bad. Do you remember the name? I'm writing it down.
So the person's name is Preston Calloway.
I'll never remember that. What a weird name. Preston Calloway.
If you want to see what they look like, there's 2 of them on my website that I use.
Okay.
He's Tucson. And
pretty professional.
Yeah.
I'll check them out.
Yeah, check them out. I mean, they're like a 20-second video, but it pretty much covers the whole gamut. It's easy, quick, get to the point.
Awesome. I'll check that out. Well, that might be worth the price of admission right there too.
Man, I'm doing good.
Gold nuggets, or as you call it, gold boulders.
Yeah.
Gold boulders. All right, we are winding down here. Let's see. Have you got anything right now, Scott, that you're working on that's got you jacked up or excited?
Oh, definitely. So I've just upgraded my crawlbot. I got the T6. Previously, I had earlier version, pretty basic. My problem was that when flippers or inexperienced house repairs, they'll carpet the crawl space shuttle hatch, and you can't get down there. And all you have left is maybe pulling the venting out of the foundation wall or getting down there somehow. I got tired of looking for water leaks. You turn on the hot water, let it run for a while in the house, then you take the infrared and shoot through the vents and see if you can see any, heat differential at the ground or at the vapor barrier. So I upgraded to the new T6. Comes with a 2K camera, and man, it makes life so much easier. The best thing is that it's so new out there that the realtors look at it. They don't care about the inspection now, man. All they want to do is check out the, where can it go? How can it,
that'd be cool too. And I had thought about and I get it, but probably I've had 2 shows last week. I got one Thursday. I don't normally, they're just all, it's like where I have a booth and there's a whole bunch of realtors. That'd be pretty cool you'd get a lot of attention just driving that thing around, and have your little advertisement on it too,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't meet a lot of home inspectors at, garden shows and stuff like that.
Right.
But, I have so sewer scoping. There's not very many people outside of our industry, unless they've had a sewage issue, that knows what a sewer scope is.
Right.
So I have it on a like an iPad on a loop, and it, you get a movie. So it's moving media, so that catches their,
It makes you interesting. People.
Yeah, exactly. So you show your radon out there, what it looks like, what the report looks like. The other thing is that so the crawl bots that I use, you get a little movie with your sewer scope. Same thing, you can upload that to Google and give them the unsecured address, and there's your video of the crawl space.
Yeah, I love gadgets, man. I'm a gadget guy. I love gadgets, but they also, I think it can bring you business. People always ask me, like infrared, and I love infrared. I don't know, and we have something called a 5-star inspection where we do everything, like the infrared, radon, kind of like the ultimate combo package, and it's $1,150. It's now, if you added all that stuff up individually, prices, it would probably be about $1,400. So it's a little bit, the combo meal. You save money.
Right. I call it the Happy Meal.
Yeah. And do we sell that many of them? Not that many. I mean, we probably do about 1 a month. But the fact that we can do it and we tell people about it, I think what happens is we're like, well, I don't want the full combo, but I really do want that infrared, or I really do want that sewer scope or something. So I think it brings up the middle, because I've always heard that explained that way, like BMW or something. You know how there's a 7 Series, a 5 Series, and a 3 Series. And you actually don't, the 7's the biggest. You don't see that many 7s, but because they sell the 7s, they sell more 5s. People see the 7s, they ride the 7, like, I can't have a 3, I at least have a 5. So having the high end brings up the middle, I guess.
Well, but the other thing is when you package it there, mindset is, if you sell it a la carte, home inspection, I throw radon, or radon's a separate one, tank locate's a separate one, sewer scope's a second, they're all individual price. If you're selling that, then people are like, oh my God, I just spent $500 on the inspection, I can't afford, or whatever. But if you package it all up, the mind says, oh my God, I'm getting a huge deal for $1,000, and it's really not that. Pacific Northwest, we have a lot of old oil tanks, so instead of inheriting somebody else's problem, you go out there and do a metal detector on steroids. It's looking, for the big metal.
Yeah.
Those type of things. Those are things like, why do I need it? Well, it gets back to, you do want a sewer scope, even though if it's a new house or an older house, it's down there. If it's leaking, I don't want to have DEQ coming after me.
Yeah. Well, and like when you tell the people, like, all right, well, you signed this saying that I offered it, but you turned it down. And they're like, you know what, maybe I will have that.
It's amazing how that it's a mind change. It's almost like the Force.
But like you said, and people ask me this all the time, don't get in you don't want to compete on price by like being the cheapest guy. What you want to do is add more service, more value. And that's what you do. Like people say, well, this other guy will do whatever. And I say, you know what you do? You do 3 or 4 more things than he does. And you charge a premium. But if you look at the value and when they price shop you, just say, well, I know you can get a cheaper inspection, but make sure they do this, or ask them if they do this or that. And then they start to realize, and you know what? If they want that, they still want the cheapest guy, that's not a client you want.
No, they're dialing for dollars.
Yeah, and that's going to be the one that's going to be problems. And, when Christmas comes or their credit card bill comes, they're going to be calling you back. You missed something. I need to pay off my credit card.
Exactly.
All right. Well, last couple of questions here, Scott. Sorry I'm holding you up. If you had to move to a brand new town, and truth be known, I stole this question from John Lee Dumas, Entrepreneur on Fire. Yeah, it's slightly different. I adjusted it to home inspection. But if you had to move to a brand new town, same size market, you still had everything, room and board, all your equipment. You just didn't know anybody. You had to market, and you had $5,000. What are you going to do to market your business that next week?
First thing is I'm going to tape my vehicle, make it really subtle so it stands out.
Wrap it.
Oh yeah, wrap it good. Advertise face not FaceTime, but actual face interaction with realtors, and then start pushing any type of media in that general area.
Okay, cool. Well, Scott, is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have asked you?
I think that you've asked pretty much everything that I can think of right now.
Cool. Well, last question. I probably should take this one off because I'm liable to get blindsided one day because I don't know I have no idea. But is there anything you'd like to ask me?
When's your book coming out?
I know. I should. I got so much crazy stories and stuff. We all do.
I know. I think you probably would have a bestseller.
I thought, I actually thought about that one question, the crazy stuff, or just crazy home inspection stories, and go around to all the inspectors I know and get each one of them's crazy story. That'd be a good book. That'd be a good real estate book,
You're right. I mean, talk about a coffee table book, bestseller, and, push it out for a charity or something.
Yeah. No, that's a good idea. I might need to erase this off of here before somebody else gets that out. I'm just kidding. Well, Scott, thank you so much for your time. You've dropped some gold boulders.
Hold on.
Yeah, I got a couple of notes here. I got to follow up on some stuff. But all the listeners out there, you know you got some gold nuggets and boulders from Scott. So Scott, tell us where your internet properties are, like Facebook and stuff, so the listeners can go and give you some likes and some follows. And I guess
Sure.
you got Twitter and Instagram and all that. Tell us where we can find you so we can follow you, like you, and all that good stuff.
So I do, as far as the email goes, Scott at brhi.biz, Blue Ribbon Home Inspection,
Okay.
or Facebook at Facebook/Blue Ribbon Home Inspections.
Okay. Now, what's your Twitter handle and Instagram handle?
Neither one of those.
Oh, you don't do those?
Yeah, no. I'm pretty easy. Just I'm having a hard enough time keeping the Facebook up, but I have Eric now to do it. But yeah, Facebook or email.
Okay. Blue Ribbon Home Inspections. And like you said, that's the name of it. You could probably Google Blue Ribbon Home Inspections, Portland, Oregon, right?
Yep.
And it'd probably come up. But go give the guy some likes, give him some love, because he gave you a bunch of nuggets. And I think that'll help, hopefully, with your the more people visit, I think it helps a little bit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He gets that traffic going on the SEOs.
Awesome. Well, I want to say for all the listeners, thank you so much, Scott. We appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Let me